Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Meredith Lego, and I'm doing a series of videos in this YouTube channel on Ascension science. And a lot of the content that I bring forward comes from channeled material that I've been able to basically collect through, I guess you could say, meditative discussions, if you will, with extra dimensional beings. And it's on various topics of how to expand consciousness and how to essentially really ascend your consciousness. And in this particular video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about a very small channeled passage that I did on the concept of trans-harmonic. And I'm doing this because in the very last video I did, that particular word came up, and it was a relatively new word that I had not heard before. This particular channeling was done, but I believe it was received from a collective consciousness that I've been able to tune into. So just as a carryover from the last video, that particular content focused a lot on the concept of fire codes or fire letters and how they actually can essentially almost create almost like an instruction set for the slight, if you will, reconstituting of certain maybe codes within your DNA to become activated or triggered. And as that channeling was going on, there was a particular sentence in there when they were talking about basically what's going on between matter and antimatter during that state. But they did say that there is basically a crystal river flow. So there's a crystal river, and with this flow, there's a connection of information between the realities or the dimensions, and that is then completed. And then they said it is a trans-harmonic road or a bridge. So that was the first time I had ever heard that term, trans-harmonic. And then it came up actually a couple weeks later in a session, again, when I was receiving information. So before doing this, I thought that I would actually look up what trans-harmonic means first, and then kind of share what I heard in this particular channeling. So trans essentially means across or changing. So it's kind of transiting, if you will, like kind of going across a certain space from here to there, or changing. And then harmonic is the resonant frequency of a vibration. So you know, when I hear that particular definition, it's when you've got different frequencies that are, you know, usually they come up through sounds, but you've got different frequency that are essentially begin to sort of resonate at similar rates. Another definition was a component of frequency of an oscillation or a wave. So an oscillation is nothing more than really a wave where you've got movement going back and forth, if you will. So it's like, you know, like this. And obviously, when you tie that to the concept of a vibration, you can have, or I guess you could say a frequency, you can have high frequency or low frequency. And obviously low frequency, you're going to have waves that are kind of more drawn out, and high frequency, it's going to be, you know, very, very, very kind of fast iterations of the waves. So again, the definition of transharmonic is changing resonant frequencies, if you will, of a vibration, or going across resonant frequencies of a vibration. I guess you could read it either way. So in this particular channeling, the message that I received is that the transharmonic universe are gateways of consciousness. So again, the transharmonic universe are gateways of consciousness. And that somewhat matches the last channeling that I did a couple of days ago, in which they were basically saying that, you know, there is basically a flow. They called it a crystal river flow, but it's essentially, if you will, like information codes, if you will, that are flowing between different dimensional realms, and it is a transharmonic road or bridge. So here again, the transharmonic universe are gateways of consciousness. And then they basically said that path cutting is required to pursue the path of consciousness knowledge and the organic path of DNA evolution. Foster your relationships with like-minded people and surround yourself in an environment or bubble of high frequency, organically derived energies and frequencies. So I would assume by that, and I kind of typed this part out as I was typing my notes up afterwards, but things like nature, people you resonate with. So if you kind of go back to a lot of the first videos that I did, maybe the first 10 or 20 or so, this is, in this particular case, a lot of the content was coming from Ascended Master Hilarion, but he would basically, state that in order to really increase your frequency, you're going to want to surround yourself or do the things that bring you the greatest joy in life. So laughing, anytime you're laughing, you're really altering your frequency and actually relaxing your DNA. And that allows it to, I'm sure, do more of the DNA stuff it's supposed to do, where it expands and grows and is healthy. When you're kind of in a state of fear or anxiety, the DNA actually curls up and, it can't do as much of what it's programmed to do. At the same time, obviously that's not good for your energetic body as well, as we've learned through the many videos that I've done. So that was really all that came across in this particular channeling. But I just did want to reiterate that the fact that this new word has come up, the trans-harmonic, or the shifting frequencies, the universe of shifting frequencies or changing frequencies and vibrational rates are gateways of consciousness. So in other words, I kind of think about that as you're shifting your frequency, it's literally almost a gateway or a doorway happening through consciousness shift. And that goes back to maybe it was a month ago that they said simply to change your timeline is a simple shift of consciousness, because you can be in a situation where you're in a tough conversation with somebody, and instead of yelling, you take another stance and you treat the conversation with love or at least neutrality. And just by doing that, you have shifted a timeline. So it's a simple shift of consciousness can shift the timeline. And obviously the whole premise of this is that if we kind of go down the path of high frequency energies that are more associated with love and compassion and empathy, and just, I think the idea of the golden rule, treat others the way that you want to be treated, that ultimately finds us in a position of lowering entropy, which is the most efficient means of evolution for not only for ourselves, but for a collective species and a collective consciousness. And really, as we find out, for the whole, because we're really all one energy field, having individuated manifestation experiences. And so that shift, that simple shift, which only you can control, is really important. And then one thing that they did start to hone in on here, and I'm going to bring this up because I think it carries on in the next few channeling sessions that I did, was the idea of the organic path. So, path cutting, which means that you're going to have to be out in the lead, in front of others. So you're kind of path cutting a new direction, is required to pursue the path of consciousness knowledge, because it's not being handed to us, certainly on the news or the media. So it takes a certain amount of effort in order to figure this knowledge out. And, it happens as well by pursuing the organic DNA, the organic path. And I have to assume that's as opposed to an inorganic path, which probably would be more technology driven. So foster your relationships with those like-minded people, probably that are in a resonant frequency with your vibration, because that will obviously bring you more joy, because there's less conflict in those situations. And and obviously they also said make sure that you're doing it in organically derived energies and frequencies, as opposed to, again, inorganic frequencies, again, which would be associated more with technology. So nature is obviously highly organic and has a very, very high frequency to it. So a lot of people feel really good when they're out in nature, in different situations. I know when you're kind of near the beaches, I think there's an ionization process that's happening with the water, and that has a natural effect, I think, in the atmosphere around you, but it obviously impacts your own frequencies, your own electromagnetic frequency as well. So those sorts of things are very important. And I found, since going on this journey, more and more and more, I just want to be outside, walking around. Fortunately, I live in an area where there's lots of trees, just walking around and being near the trees, because I feel so much more balanced in that moment. So with that, I hope, this is added to your knowledge. Again, this was a new word that I, wanted to hone in on because it came up in the next channeling session that I did. And it might be something that's kind of like this fundamental word that gets used more and more in the future. So with that, I will see you in future videos. And if you're new to this channel, obviously I encourage you to subscribe, because a lot of the content is going to focus on different mechanics around Ascension. And if you do like the video, I encourage you to give it a thumbs up. Thanks very much. See you next time. Bye.